could. Cause I'm mad as hell, can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Monday, February 19th, 2018. Yes, we're live, and we'll be getting into the reasons why I was absent on Friday in a little bit. Today is also President's Day, which is the day the president comes out of the White House, and if he sees his shadow, we get 6 more years of war, I think. I get these holidays confused. All right, so basically to bring everybody up to date on what's been going on with the saga of our Honda. A week ago, a little over a week ago, our car got stolen, and that was like the second time in 4 months. The first time it was by joyriders, so we got the car back with only a little bit of damage to the steering column lock. And so I purchased a club to put on there, which is supposed to be a deterrent. And so Sunday morning, I'm getting ready to take Claire to church, and I walk on out, and there's my dude, where's my car moment, because there's nothing but an empty parking lot, empty parking space rather. So, you know, we're having to fill out reports for the police and everything. And then we get a call on Monday. They've located the car in the parking lot at the Walmart in Pearl City. So far, so good. So we go on down. The police release the car back to us. We call our insurance guy, and we tell them the car's been disabled. They've removed parts of the ignition system, and the car cannot be driven. So they're going to send a tow truck and take it to the yard, where the estimator is going to look at what it's going to cost to fix this car and see if it's actually worth the trouble, which 18-year-old car, 160,000 miles on it. No, it probably isn't. So Thursday, right during the show, Claire gets a phone call from the insurance guy, who got a phone call from his tow operator, who was like 2 days late getting down there to pick up the car, and he can't find the car. And so we have to call the police again and go on down to the Walmart parking lot and verify the car is now missing again. So we fill out our second theft report on the missing car. And then Friday, just before we were to go on the air, we got a call that the car had been located yet again down in Eva Beach, which is kind of a high crime area. In fact, less than half a block away on the same street where our car was abandoned, there was another abandoned and stripped car. And this time the damage to our car is very extensive. So we call our insurance adjuster again, and we say, can you get the tow truck down there, Friday, and not take the 3-day holiday and pick it up on Tuesday, or it's probably going to disappear again. Because they didn't take everything. It wasn't stripped all the way down, and looks to me like they got interrupted because they had some stuff detached, but they left it. So that's where we are with that, and we're waiting to see what, if anything, the insurance company is going to give us to basically cover that loss. And at that point, we're looking for a newer car. And we had been planning on getting a newer car, obviously. So we've got a little money saved up. We don't want to finance, not in this economy. So we're going to start searching and see what we can find out there. All right, let's get into the news here now. Down in Parkland, it is coming on out that there was a drill, a shooting drill, scheduled at exactly the same time that the real shooting took place. We've seen that pattern before. And apparently there's a video out where CNN actually reported on the fact that there was a fake shooting drill about to happen. But they're already trying to pull the story back. There was a Parkland High School student on a YouTube video saying that everybody was talking about the police were going to come on to the campus and shoot off blank guns and have an active shooter drill. And that's why most of the students didn't actually react when they first heard the gunfire. They thought it was the drill. That YouTube video has now been pulled. So they're trying to basically pull back on that. And I imagine the same thing's probably happened to that CNN video. Now, everybody is trying to use Parkland to push their own political agenda. Of course, the gun grabbers are out there as always saying, we've got to get rid of the guns. We've got to get rid of the guns. Guns are evil. Guns are bad. We've got to get rid of the guns. And but there's some other bizarre things coming out as well. Reporter model Becky Griffin basically came on out and said that the Parkland shooting wouldn't have happened if Nikolas Cruz's mother had aborted him instead of putting him up for adoption. So that's basically, this is what's coming from Becky Griffin, that if more babies are aborted, there will be fewer mass shootings. That's what she's out there actually saying here. Meanwhile, there was apparently this woman out on Twitter caused a stir calling for mass shootings at NRA meetings. They want to blame the NRA for this. It's all the NRA's fault. Well, those gun nuts over there. And I'm going to tell you right now, you will never see a mass shooting aimed at an NRA meeting because those people can and will shoot back. You look at all these mass shootings, they always go into the gun-free zones where they know that they can do what they're going to do and not be fired on. That's what's going to happen. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And by now you've probably heard about this football coach, Aaron Feis. And he was one of the first victims of the shooting. Was one of the first victims whose name was put out on the media. And students are saying he basically turned himself into a human shield in order to save them. And one student came on out and said that if the coach had been armed, he could have stopped the shooter. And that's absolutely true. And that's always something that never seems to get mentioned in all of this debate. Gun laws aren't going to disarm the shooter. This shooter bought his gun legally. He passed the background check. So obviously the gun laws aren't working. Or for those shooters who steal their guns or buy them on the black market, the gun laws don't work there either. Obviously, gun laws aren't solving the problem. Arming the people will. Now, the FBI is trying to wipe some of the egg off of its face because it has now come on out. They received multiple warnings about this kid, this Nikolas Cruz. And they didn't act on them. They did an interview with the guy who spotted Nicholas' comment about wanting to be a professional school shooter. Kind of an odd word to use there, professional. And this guy called the FBI. They came out and talked to him, and that was it. That was the end of it. I guess they were too busy trying to build up this fake Russian collusion story and meddle in national politics to do their real job. In fact, over at an article on Fox News, they're calling the Federal Bureau of Incompetence because of all the warnings that they got about these shooters. But you know something? This is part of a repeating pattern and why we need to be very suspicious about how these things get set up. Because we have found out, following all these acts of domestic terror, that the named suspects, the patsies, were known to the FBI, and nothing was done. According to reports, the FBI and U.S. law enforcement were sent by Russia a warning about Tamerlan Tsarnaev, and the FBI interviewed him and let him go. And they received a second warning from Russia, and they didn't even bother following up on that. That was the Boston bombing. Apparently, down at Fort Hood, the soldier Nidal Hassan actually sent emails to the FBI saying he wanted his fellow soldiers dead in order to protect the Taliban. Officials did nothing. 31 people were killed. Now, do you remember the New York City bomber Ahmed Khan Rahami? His own father alerted officials that his son had become radicalized, and the FBI interviewed him and cleared him. Then he went on to set off his bomb and eventually injured 31 people between New Jersey and New York. Remember the Pulse nightclub? Okay, apparently Omar Mateen had been under investigation by the FBI, during which he admitted lying to officials, but the FBI decided not to take further action. See where we're going with all of this stuff? Down in Garland, Texas, the FBI had an undercover agent traveling with Islamists Elton Simpson and Nadir Sufi for intelligence on a pending attack during that Draw Mohammed event in Garland, Texas. Not only did officials know the attack was pending, they refused to comment on why their agent didn't intervene when the attack took place, which suggests strongly the FBI wanted the attack to happen. Now, FBI agent Colleen Rowley made allegations in a report that the FBI mishandled leads within its Minneapolis office during the investigation into the alleged 9/11 mastermind Zacarias Moussaoui. Rowley chronicles the early aftermath of the attack on the Twin Towers as she and other agents scoured through pre-attack events concerning the investigation. So either the FBI wanted all this stuff to happen, or they really are the Federal Bureau of Incompetence. So a lot of people are saying, you know, what is really going on here? Judge Shanina is out there saying the FBI needs a complete overhaul and a complete cleansing, and she is absolutely right. It's become way too politicized to be of any use or value to the American people. Now, interestingly enough, back in 1991, there was a book called Behold a Pale Horse. And in this book, author Milton William Cooper, who was a former U.S. Navy intelligence briefing team member, basically predicted that the government would use school mass shootings to convince Americans to give up their guns. Like I said the other day, you never see these mass shootings down in the ghetto. Those people shoot back. Now, we ran this little flashback story. This is from August of last year, and it's about parents who caught the FBI in a scheme to basically groom their mentally ill son to be a terrorist. And, of course, they kicked up a fuss about it. The kid in question is seriously mentally ill. In fact, he's not allowed to live alone. He's under permanent guardianship of his parents. That's how mentally ill he is. But the FBI basically located him, and they were starting to groom him and guide him toward committing an act of terror. Now, let's get on to the psychiatric drug dimension, because I'm rather relieved to see that this is getting a lot more attention than it has in the past. And there are a lot of articles out there saying all of these killers were on these drugs, and these drugs are known to have issues of violence, suicide, mass death. And almost all of these mass shooters were known to be on these medications. I say almost all because lately the government is trying to withhold that information from the public. Following Sandy Hook, there was a citizens committee in Connecticut wanted to find out what psychiatric medications this kid was on. And the state government said, no, that's private. That's private information. And they actually made the argument. The lawyer from the medical examiner's office came on over. Patrick Quanashy was his name. And said that even if in this one case the medication led to the mass shooting, people didn't need to know that because then they would stop taking the drugs their doctors were selling them. And if you look at how big pharmaceuticals are in Connecticut's economy, you will understand where they're coming from. But there are all these articles out here over at Blacklisted News, from Prozac to Parkland. Are psychiatric drugs causing mass shootings? I'm sure they're not helping. Now, apparently Fox News was interviewing somebody, and they were interviewing this doctor who started talking about psychotropic drugs and their links to these mass shooters, and Fox News just cut her right off. Just cut her off. Why? Because their advertising budget relies on big pharmaceutical contracts. They don't want to annoy their sponsors, their advertisers, even if the advertisers are selling dangerous chemicals. But there have now been 150 studies in 17 different countries on antidepressant-induced side effects. There have been 134 drug regulatory agency warnings from 11 countries, and the EU warning about the dangerous side effects of these chemicals. Even the FDA has now required some of these to carry a warning label. Of course, it's on that little, very tiny piece of paper package insert in very, very microscopic print, which pharmaceutical company says it's just to save money. But it makes it very, very difficult to read those things. Now, here's where things get a little bit bizarre. Apparently, the younger brother of Nikolas Cruz, has been involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility under what is known as Baker's Law. Now, under Baker's Law, he has to be released after 12 hours unless these doctors can find a reason to permanently commit him. And I'm kind of wondering, did this kid know something about what Nikolas was doing that goes against the official story? Because they sure grabbed him quick, put him in the facility here. Now, there's one other area of commonality on some of these mass shooters. Nikolas Cruz, registered Democrat. Stephen Paddock, registered Democrat. Omar Mateen, registered Democrat. Adam Lanza, registered Democrat. James Holmes, registered Democrat. Nidal Malik Hassan, registered Democrat. Seung Hui Cho, registered Democrat. So maybe it's not the pharmaceutical problem. Maybe it's not the antidepressants. Maybe just being a Democrat drives you crazy, makes you homicidal. Now, there's been another interesting little story. This was in Amarillo, Texas. They were having a church meeting on Wednesday, and another shooter walked on in, was holding about 100 people hostage, had them cornered, could have escalated to the worst mass shooting in the nation's history. But the church security guard, who was armed, shot the suspect, saved everybody's life. He's a hero. You're not going to hear about that on the corporate media for two reasons. One, the corporate media doesn't run stories about law-abiding citizens stopping crimes and mass shootings with legally owned firearms. And the second reason, and probably a little bit more important, when the police finally showed up at the church, they shot the security guard. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, a while back, for some reason, somebody decided they were going to make an issue over how easy it is to convert an AR-15 to an M16 or to full auto. And I know it's theoretically possible, but I made the comment on the air that the AR-15 isn't built to take that kind of abuse of repeated cyclic firing. You're going to wear out the parts real quick on it. And I got all these phone calls from people saying, oh, no, there's no difference whatsoever between the AR-15 and the M16. It's just having that automatic sear in there. And the debate got a little bit heated because, as you know, the U.S. government hates the AR-15. They don't think we should be allowed to have a gun that we could defend our home against tyranny with, which was the mistake the British made that led to the battles of Lexington and Concord here. So one of our listeners, who's apparently an expert on guns, sent me in a portion, and I stress it's only a portion, of the lower receiver of an M16. Apparently was a decommissioned weapon. It's been sliced off right here in the midpoint. Now, having worked on AR-15s, having taken them apart and put them back together, I'm very familiar with the insides. And looking at this portion of a low receiver from the M16, there are major, major differences. There are extra castings in the fabrication that are simply not present on the AR-15. And so, no, in point of fact, you're not going to make an M16 out of an AR-15 kit. There are ways to make it fire, auto, bump stocks, various other things. Again, you're going to wear the gun out. And maybe I'm just speaking from my experience as a black powder shooter. If you can't hit your target on one round, you shouldn't be out there with a gun in the first place. But looking at this receiver, it's very obvious that there are significant structural differences between the M16 and the AR-15. And this is a much more substantial and robust part than the equivalent component on the AR-15. We're going to take a break here for some commercials, and we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown that they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month, and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And I just got an email from somebody who apparently back in 2001 noticed what he thought were suspicious amounts of military purchases at an Army surplus store in Minneapolis. And he tried to call the FBI, and they hung up on him twice. So, yeah, the FBI doesn't care about ordinary people. They're there. They're modern Gestapo is what they are. They're not about law enforcement. They're about enforcing the will of the leaders. And if the leaders want us disarmed, the FBI is going to go on out and find and recruit these kids. They can probably go through medical records and find people who are on these prescription antidepressants, knowing how easy it is to get them to go on out and commit an act of violence. All right, we're going to take a phone call here now. Alex in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael, I was watching YouTube this past weekend, and I saw where Nunes was basically stating that we have slam dunk lawsuits on the fact that Steele lied to the FBI and told them about the Russian collusion when there was no such thing, and yet we're not doing anything about it. It's like these people are above the law. He said, we know that Susan Rice unmasked people's name, Flynn's name, which is a felony, and they're not doing one thing about it. It's like these people are above the law.
Well, they shouldn't be. We're supposed to be a nation of laws, and it's very dangerous to have a segment of society to whom the laws do not apply, because inevitably they start behaving the way our leadership is behaving, badly.
Yeah, it's pathetic. I'm kind of giving up on the situation. However, I'm hoping that the Office of Inspector General or the Inspector General's report is so damaging to the establishment that Trump can actually come out and say, if Sessions isn't going to do anything about it, you're fired. And he should take that opportunity to fire anyone that's in the way. And he should also actively campaign against people like the congressman from South Carolina that says there'll be hell to be paid if he fires Sessions, Graham.
Yes.
We need to campaign against people that have problems with our politicians enforcing the Constitution and the law. We need to clean house.
I agree, but in order for the campaigns to work, we've got to clean up the voting system because it's crookeder than a dog's hind leg right now. And it's amazing to see how hard the deep state is fighting to keep this fraudulent system in place.
Yeah, and another thing that Nunes said is that we know that Hillary Clinton colluded with Russia. That's another slam dunk case. And we're just sitting back and what are we doing about it? What is Jeff Sessions doing about it?
He's doing absolutely nothing about it. This makes what? Our third, our second Attorney General in a row that's out there protecting the deep state. As far as I'm concerned, the entire federal government is utterly useless. They're just totally obsessed with making money, having a lot of fun, and going around the world killing people. And they're just not taking care of the American people at all. They're too busy bringing in all the illegal immigrants and the refugees, and they're trashing the place.
That's right. Well, we need to send a message to Trump that if Jeff Sessions, after the Attorney General's report, does nothing about the crimes that have been committed, it needs to. That's the opportunity to clean house, everyone that's in the way. And I don't like Ray with the FBI. I think he's trash too. I think he's the deep state. We need to get rid of anyone and everyone and can actively campaign against any congressman or politician that has a problem with it. We need these people to be put in jail, or the future for our kids is one of criminal rule.
Yes,
and I'm over it. I'm sick and tired of it. And that's another thing that Nunes was saying is that we, the people, have to make a stand and say, no, we're not going to allow them to collude with Russia and to actually try to overthrow our country by lying about Donald Trump. We need to do something about it.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's a mess out there. And the more we learn, the more of a mess it appears to be. And, of course, that applies to all Americans right now who are paying attention to what's going on. And I think most Americans are now really waking up. The latest polls are showing the majority of Americans are convinced the Trump administration was illegally spying. The Obama administration was illegally spying on the Trump campaign. It's Watergate all over again.
Yeah. It's worse than Watergate. And I miss what you were talking about with the SRI medications and killings and the FBI. The FBI wants these people on SRIs. That's part of their scheme to go ahead and kill people so they can take our guns from us. They need those people on the SRI medicines. That's their whole plan. I mean, it's obvious.
Somebody pointed out that as the marketing saturation of these medications has gone up, so have the mass shootings. They're linked. Anyway, listen, Alex, I got to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials. Bye-bye, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, just inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile for the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and the new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes what's really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, last week, Friday, in fact, I think it was, Special Counsel Robert Mueller decided he had to do something to make it look like he just hasn't wasted all that time and money on the Russian collusion story. And so he issued indictments against 13 Russian nationals for influencing the 2016 election. Now, an indictment just simply means we're going to try and take this to court. I don't think it's ever going to get to court. I think this is a pure publicity stunt, pure political move, so the Democrats can say, see, there was collusion. But unfortunately, Mueller made a bit of a goof because he basically in the indictment said that any Americans who cooperated with these Russian nationals did so inadvertently, and that gets Trump off the hook. There's no collusion if one party doesn't know they're colluding. So the claim is that these suspects posed as U.S. persons, created false U.S. personas, and ran social media to try and influence the election. Now here's where it gets funny. Somebody discovered there was this article over at the website of Radio Free Europe. It was written in 2015 in Ukrainian, but when translated, it reads almost exactly like Mueller's indictments, like he plagiarized this, that he just got the indictments out of this article on a website. I mean, that's how desperate they are to try and find any information. Remember when phony Tony Blair plagiarized a 12-year-old student paper to come up with his dodgy dossier? And here's where it gets even more interesting, because apparently in the indictments, Mueller says that all of this Russians coming on in and influencing the election began back in 2014. This was when John Kerry's State Department would have had to approve the visas. So they were being brought in all the way back in 2014, trying to set the stage for this. Now, there's an article over in Zero Hedge talking about Russian meddling, gagging on the irony of the U.S., which has been meddling in other nations' elections for decades, screaming about Russia meddling in ours, which they still haven't proven. It's an allegation only. And interestingly enough, former CIA Director James Woolsey came on out and said, yeah, the U.S. meddles in foreign elections, but we have good intentions. We're doing it for democracy because we're the good guys. The Russians are bad. They're very, very bad, and they've got bad intentions. That's why their meddling is bad and our meddling is good. That's it. The U.S. is meddling in foreign elections to bring them democracy. Actually, no. Leaving the election alone to let the people decide, that's democracy. Meddling in election, that's election fraud. That's dictatorship. That's giving people a government they did not actually vote for. Same problem we have with our very crooked voting system we have in this country. Mueller's indictment also includes the claim that Russian meddling attempted to suppress the black voter turnout. So they're playing the race card on this one, trying to get the black people angry with Russia. Oh, those Russians, they were suppressing my right to vote. Now, John Podesta's out there talking about how these Russian influencers, a whole 13 people, were influencing the election, and they knew to go in and campaign on the so-called purple states, the battleground states, which Hillary didn't. Hillary was so convinced that she had this thing locked up, she wasn't campaigning anywhere near as much as Trump did, and she didn't go into the purple states. And so one reporter was actually asking John Podesta, why are the Russian operatives so much smarter than Hillary? And of course, he gets flustered because he can't come on out and say that, yeah, Hillary was being dumb. She'll beat him up again. Now, The Facebook Vice President of Advertising, Rob Goldman, has basically come on out to remind everybody that the majority of Russian ad spending, which is part of this influence claim, happened after the election. And it was really not that much. But right now, Mueller and Hillary, they're grasping at straws to try and keep this narrative of Russia stole the election away from Hillary Clinton going. Now, over in Russia, their foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, is out there saying the U.S. indictment of Russians over election meddling is absolutely absurd. And I agree. The hypocrisy is outstanding that Mueller is going after these Russians with no evidence to back up his claims based on an indictment which appears to be copied from this Radio Free Europe website, while he continues to ignore Uranium Gate, Foundation Gate, and the fact that it was Hillary Clinton and not Donald Trump who colluded with the Russians. So now's the time to go along on tar and feathers. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Frank in North Carolina. Aloha, Frank. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I was listening to your show, and you're talking about all these false flag attacks and whatnot, or where people, the FBI is dropping the ball and everything, and there's all this debate going on. But John Stettmiller had Cody Snodgrass on one night last week and interviewed him, and I've heard this guy before. He's making the rounds. He sounds pretty credible. And as John Stettmiller stated, his BS detector didn't go off during the interview. And this guy, he was associated with the CIA. He was doing black ops outside of our country. He's associated with some of the stuff going on with the Clintons and the Tyson and the drugs and all that kind of stuff. And he claims that a go-between, a guy that he personally knew who was a Marine in Vietnam and was CIA, solicited him for the CIA, for the Pentagon. This came right out of the Pentagon, solicited him to blow up the Morrow building and kill Americans.
Okay.
He turned it down. So, all this stuff it's ridiculous. All this stuff is ridiculous. Our government does not care anything about these children.
No.
It doesn't care anything about us.
No, we're livestock, and they're picking schools and killing children to magnify the shock effect, so that people are so traumatized by what they're seeing, they don't stop and think, is this another government cover-up operation? And of course, we know Oklahoma City certainly was. They had all the paperwork for the coming Waco inquiry just happened to be in that building, along with a bunch of evidence regarding some government mishandling of medical problems for veterans. That was going to be a big stink as well. We have that photograph of this shielded camp set up where they had a second Ryder truck, which is, I think that was the real truck with the real bomb in it, because witnesses describing the Ryder truck, some said it looked old and some said it looked brand new. But all of that stuff is out there, and people need to be just very, very suspicious of what's going on. We know that the FBI framed James Earl Ray. We know that they worked very hard to block a re-examination of the gun that killed Martin Luther King, because on its first ballistic test, it was discovered that it couldn't have fired the bullets that hit Dr. King. And so the FBI said, well, no more tests. So that's what they do. They're a modern Gestapo. They enforce the will of the rulers against the people. And if the rulers say, I need you to go out and shoot up some schools full of kids because we've got to convince Americans to give up their guns, yeah, the FBI has people who will do that. Remember FBI snipers at Ruby Ridge and the Malheur Wildlife Refuge.
Well, it's just, it's surreal. All of this stuff is just surreal. But I have to comment, too, since you brought it up. I don't want to get into an argument. But, I received my 4th award expert badge. Okay. I had the highest shooting badge that you can get in the Marine Corps, 4 years consecutive. And I'm telling you, the weapons that we had were the same weapons that you buy in the store. I've taken them. I've had 4 ARs since I left the Marine Corps, and they're the exact. I mean, I've had match grade Colt H-bar rifles. It's the same thing, if not better, than the ones that I had when I was in the military.
Well,
that's all
I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on that because, again, I've worked on the inner workings of an AR-15, and there are definitely distinct differences in the casting here for parts that are just not there on the AR. And it's not like you can go on in there with a soldering iron and put these things back in.
Okay, no, I'll have to say I only get the high-grade manufactured rifles. I mean, there may be some cheapo copies or kits out there. I mean, I only deal with like Colt and black or what is it? I forget. There were a couple other ones that I had, but I mean, I don't know. There may be some cheapo versions out there.
Well, that would certainly be the 80% kits, but that's right now that's a big part of the AR-15 market. Okay.
Well, don't go for the cheap stuff, but I mean, I spent literally thousands and thousands of hours working on the inner workings of the AR-15, M16, and it's the same thing.
Except for the sear, of course, and the selector level.
Right. And the length of the barrel, length of the barrel, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thanks an awful lot, Frank. We're going to let you go. And now, just getting on back to the news here. So we're looking at the U.S. British deep state empire, and they have just become obsessed with Russia. Russia this, Russia that. Russia is stealing socks out of your dryer. Russia is filing their teeth because pain is fun. Russia is passing wind in the elevators. Anything bad that happens, it's blamed on Russia. And I think a secondary point of all of this obsessiveness is they're trying to create this climate where if you disagree with what the government is doing, you are automatically assumed to be some kind of a Russian agent. Now, it wasn't all that long ago that a whole bunch of truth activism websites, including my own, were declared agents of Russian propaganda by no less than the Washington Compost, which made me feel really good. And so, yeah, we're heading back into McCarthyism, where anybody who is doubting what the government is doing, anybody that the government distrusts, oh, you must be a Russian agent. And if you remember the evils of McCarthyism, and if you don't, you ought to research it, people's lives were destroyed with no evidence of actual wrongdoing. And we're heading into that same mindset right now with this Robert Mueller investigation. It's just accusations are flung recklessly in all directions. It's a smear job is what it is. Now, more and more people are starting to suspect that former CIA Director John Brennan may have been the ultimate mastermind behind the whole Russia collusion, Russia demonization operation, that it was deliberately set up to basically bring back the Cold War so that military people can get promoted more rapidly, the defense contractors can make more money, the government is justified taking more of your money away from you and not giving you anything of any real value in return. We're literally living in a wartime economy. Now, a lot of people like to say that war is good for the economy in general. That's an absolute flat-out lie. And all you have to do is go back and, again, look at what was going on in this country during big mistake number 1 and big mistake number 2. War is just a way of taking money away from the people and putting it into the pockets of the defense contractors, who then write very generous campaign donation checks to politicians. Another argument why there should be strict campaign donation limits. Okay, we're going to take a phone call from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
James Woolsey is one of the deep state. He's a scumbag, needs to be brought to the cornfield and gotten rid of. John Brennan, another scumbag. Mike, who's legitimate in our government anymore? Like, none of these people. Who picks them? The American people don't pick them. They're appointed. You know? They're not representative of the American people.
No, but they're supposed to be selected by people who are representatives of the American people, except with our crooked election system, it doesn't work that way. They're just handing off the White House to insider to insider to insider, from one drug criminal to the next, to the next, to the next.
Remember, he was on Fox News, and remember Mike Morales, or whatever his name was, said we need to kill a lot of Russians and Iranians. But we all know where this is headed eventually, Mike. Like, I mean, you know, to a world war. Because this country is in decline. We talked about this before. And the Russian, the Iranians, the Chinese, you know, they're all on the other side. And since we're on decline, along with the French, the British, you know, and Australia, Canada, it's the West. The West is in decline. And if you don't believe me, just look at all the refugees they're bringing into France. France is gone. I mean, France and Britain is gone, Mike, in like less than 20 years. Yes. I mean, there's no coming back. You know, it's sad. And the French people and the British people, they don't do anything because they don't know what to do because they're told their whole lives by the propaganda to shut up. You know, what's the saying in Britain? Yeah, there was a saying in Britain like, basically,
Can't think of it.
I forgot the saying. Yeah, it's a saying. It's like, be quiet, basically. You know, like the Queen or this or, what a joke though. This whole thing is, Mike. Like, I mean, the whole thing is, it's about the Silk Road. That's what it's about. It's about Iran is becoming bigger influence than the Saudis. You know, the Saudis are in decline. You know, Israel is, it's a parasite, goes to whatever country they can get money from. And you just looked the other day, Netanyahu, not only is he in trouble, but his subordinates. There's other people getting, indicted now.
Yes. Some have already been arrested.
They're failing over there. And, maybe the Israeli people should, look at their own government along with the American people and say, what's going on. All it takes is a half an hour of research.
Okay, Dustin, got to take a break for commercials. Yeah. Stay on the line. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about MiGrelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created MiGrelief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend MiGrelief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Most basic diseases are caused by yeast in the gut and metals in the liver, and we all have a bit of both. The garlic in Extendivite has a yeast-killing effect in the gut while also helping the sulfur enzyme in the liver get rid of the metals. Extendivite just may improve your overall health. Products like Extendivite are the only way we're going to get our society healthy. And if you're waiting for the government and pharmaceutical care to solve your health problems, you're going to have a long, disappointing wait, I think. Extendivite is a complete formula for extended life in the new millennium. 80 can be the new 60. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're finishing up here with Dustin in New Jersey, and I agree. This country's in a terrible mess. The entire West is in a terrible mess. A big part of it, of course, is private central banking, which intentionally plunges nations into unpayable debt, and that's where most of our money is going. The money that isn't going to the wars is going to the bankers, so that they can live in these fabulous mansions, and meanwhile, of course, our streets are cracking, our bridges are collapsing. And we've got massive amounts of homelessness and hunger because, again, they don't care. To them, we're the great unwashed. They see themselves as modern-day potentates.
And if you look at Los Angeles, they got more homelessness now. There was just another report. This is a declining empire, people. We're a declining empire with everybody's got debt. The world got debt. But everybody in this country's got the most debt. Millennials got debt, like college tuition debt. They have no extra money to spend. When you got too much debt, there's nowhere to go.
You're absolutely right. The system locks up. You know, they just revised the holiday shopping season numbers downward. We knew it was a terrible shopping season. And the retail apocalypse is continuing. Iconic stores all over the place are closing their doors permanently, declaring bankruptcy.
I just want to tell people there's no 4% unemployment rate. If there was, there wouldn't be tent cities popping all over the country. We have a 25% unemployment rate. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but that's where it's at. That's a quarter of your population out of work. That's not, it's a consumption-based society, people. I mean, you need that quarter of a population to be buying stuff. If you don't, it's gonna, it's like gears spinning. If one gear stops, the whole work stops. And Mike, I think there's one option they got is basically a world war, Mike. Because but the problem is everybody's got nuclear weapons now, so we know where that's going to go. And now the Russians are they're not pulling out of Syria, Mike, and neither is Turkey. I think Syria is the flashpoint, Mike. I mean, like Germany was in the 1980s.
Yes.
I think Syria's in now. I really do. I think that's where everybody's in. This should scare the hell out of people.
It should. It really should because, this war ultimately will go nuclear. I mean, the U.S. is got military operations going on in 3/4 of the nations on this planet. We don't know where all of our military are. Remember when those Americans got killed in Niger? It came as a big shock. People didn't even know we were in Niger in the first place. And so we don't know where else the U.S. military is working. But they're stretched thin. They're overextended. We keep hearing all these horror stories about how the people they're being forced to enlist are just not up to the stresses of combat. We've got all these horror stories about these hideously expensive weapon systems that really don't work all that well. The U.S. is going to lose this next war. And along the way, when they realize they can't win it conventionally, that's when they'll start using the nuclear weapons. Okay?
Thanks, Mike. Have a good show.
All right, thanks. We're going to take a quick break for station identification, and we'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, the history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And before we take this next phone call, I just had somebody send in an email I wanted to read. Hi, just listening to the show. You may want to bring up the fact that not only Russia was meddling, which I don't think they were, Germany was very much meddling, with Merkel going as far as saying that unless Clinton won, she would be the new leader of the free world because Trump country would somehow not be free. And, of course, Germany's always portrayed as a friend. But let's be honest, the biggest meddler in our political system is Israel, and nobody has the gonadal tissue to mention that. What Russia's accused of doing is penny-ante stuff. Israel is in here with AIPAC and huge amounts of money and media influence. They're constantly meddling with our internal politics, and nobody calls them on it. All right, let's take a phone call from Randy in South Dakota. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Yeah, on the Russia issue, and we've been conquered by, they want divide, they want division, they don't want no. It's like the gun owners and the non-gun owners, the female thing and the male thing, gays and lesbians, and they want it, the black and the white. I mean, there's a reason they don't want us to like Russia. In fact, we as people here on the land, we should be writing letters to the people in Russia on the land, because I'm sure they're in the same boat we are. I absolutely agree with you. And that's my opinion on that. And Trump, he give his inauguration. He's trying to he mentioned giving the power back to the people. Well, the people need to smarten up and take the power back, because we're self-governed. We're the first government. And it starts at our community level, and then it goes to our state level, and then it goes to our federal level. He's our servant. He works for us. We need to tell him what we want. We need to get involved. I guess my advice is everybody needs to start at their county level and get going and get with people and start doing stuff.
Well, getting on back to the Russia issue, I want to modify my comment that the Russians are probably in the same boat that Americans are, and I'm rethinking that, because you don't see the Russian government and media coming out with all of these outrageous claims about other countries. Whereas it's nonstop in the American media. Russia is this, North Korea is that, Syria is this, Assad and his gas, Saddam's nuclear weapons. You don't see Russia behaving like that. In fact, Russia has been basically holding a steady course of just sticking to the facts. And Sergei Lavrov the other day was saying that the world cannot trust the American corporate media, or for that matter, the American government any longer. Because their credibility is absolutely blown.
But these other countries don't have a corporate media to do that to us, do they?
Well, sure they do.
I mean, they. I mean, that's. I mean, that's the deal where the people, it's just like us. We don't, I'm tired of this South Dakota public radio station. It's like I wish I could come across some people to help me and figure out how to get rid of them, because it's terrible, the stuff. I mean, they're on this Florida deal and this gun deal, and the main thing there is they don't mention about all these movies that Hollywood makes about killing and killing and killing, and our kids watch that, and they wonder why kids, you know, when they do finally go wacky, that the only thing they can think of is to get noticed is by go kill a bunch of people. It's like that's in our movies that teaches them that.
Yeah, and I'm personally very angry with all of these Hollywood stars and their hypocrisy, where they're out there saying guns are bad, and then you look at their filmography and you see all these movies that they made money on where they're out there with big guns and just shooting up the place. So it is absolutely hypocritical. The fact that we have most households now have both parents working, so the kids, their only upbringing is TV and movies and social media and pop culture, which is not instilling any moral values in them.
But they've conquered by divide. They've divided everybody. Nobody stands together.
That's definitely intentional. That's definitely intentional. Anyway, Randy, thanks a lot for the information and the insights, and we're going to let you go here and get back to the news. Okay? Thank you for the phone call. All right, getting on back to the news. Now we have known for about a week, that the Department of Justice gave the FBI the Steele dossier without disclosing that it was paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC through Fusion GPS. Now, it's come on out that Trey Gowdy is starting to put pedal to the metal over there, and basically Mueller's investigation, his bogus investigation, it's been discovered it's staffed with all these top Democratic operatives. There's no balance whatsoever. It's just a room full of Trump haters. But apparently they did a 7-hour interview of Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, led by Trey Gowdy, doing the questioning. It lasted 7 hours. And apparently there were significant conflicts between what McCabe said and statements made by FBI and Department of Justice earlier. So now the House Intelligence Committee is issuing fresh subpoenas on the Justice Department and FBI personnel. Now, one of the things that McCabe reportedly told the panel was how hard the FBI had worked to verify the contents of the Steele dossier and stood by its credibility. However, it basically came on out that he couldn't point to any part of the dossier that they actually had supporting information on, other than the fact that Trump campaign advisor Carter Page had traveled to Moscow, and they couldn't even verify who it was he'd actually met over there. That's one fact. One fact out of that dossier, didn't verify anything else, and still they went with it, said, we stand by it. Now, a lot of people were wondering why the Trump dossier surfaced after the election, when it would have been much more useful to Hillary to get that thing circulating around before the election. Well, according to this story out of the Gateway Pundit, apparently Hillary was thinking about doing that, releasing this Steele dossier before the election. But apparently the initial reaction to it was, oh, come on, you got to be kidding. And so they held it off, and then they figured they were going to win the election without it. Then when Hillary lost, she put the dossier out. Now, Brennan has been outed for lying under oath, and apparently he was asked under oath, do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings or application? And Brennan said, I have no awareness. Of course, we know that's a law. The entire application for the FISA warrant was based on that dossier. and what was supposed to be a corroborating story in Yahoo News, except that Christopher Steele was the source both for the dossier and the Yahoo News report, so it wasn't really corroboration. Now, Sessions has come on out and said that the Department of Justice is going to have an investigation into the handling of the dossier and the application for the FISA warrant, but I'm not expecting anything to come of that. It's basically just a way for the Department of Justice to say, we're just going to pull in all the evidence and we're going to work on this really good and hard, and then nothing will happen. Now, Judicial Watch has targeted Samantha Power with a new lawsuit for the documents related to the unmasking scandal, because apparently Samantha Power reportedly unmasked 260 Americans in her last year at the State Department with no explanation of why it was done. And the question has to be, why would an ambassador to the United Nations need to unmask hundreds of American citizens? Again, at Judicial Watch, they're still prying more emails out of the State Department. The State Department is dragging its feet as hard as it can, but they have found even more instances of classified information on Hillary Clinton's unsecure system. So Emailgate, or Servergate, whatever you want to call it, is still alive and well. And that means that Hillary lied when she's testified under oath that she never sent or received any classified information on her private server. And again, I think it is a legitimate question to ask. Given the history of the Clintons back with the Chinagate scandal, was Hillary Clinton, while Secretary of State, selling U.S. secrets to foreign interests using her weak private email server to deliver the material and her so-called charitable foundation to collect and launder the money? That's a question that deserves to be asked. I wish somebody in Washington, D.C. or the corporate media would ask it. They won't. They're absolutely terrified of Hillary. But it needs to be asked. Now, again, getting on back to that private server and the idea that some good old-fashioned espionage was going on. It turns on out that the FBI investigation of the espionage and blackmail charges in the Awan case was blocked by an Obama Department of Justice appointee who worked for Holder and Lynch. So were the Awans running their own espionage network inside the Capitol building? Or were they working for Hillary Clinton? Because they seem to have some serious political juice protecting them. Another sign of cover-up here. Apparently, Andrew McCabe altered Peter Strzok's 302 notes on the General Michael Flynn interview and then destroyed the evidence. Now, 302, it's short for FD 302, which is an official FBI notation of an interview. They take notes. And apparently, McCabe changed the 302 notes and then tried to cover it up. Now, the interesting thing is, apparently, Michael Flynn has applied to the court to withdraw his guilty plea. And it looks like it might happen. He's going to go into court and he's going to put up a fight based on all of the shenanigans that are going on. And the possible fact that he was intentionally set up to take a fall. So let's look at the war zones, because there is a lot going on, and I agree with Dustin. The Middle East looks like it's about to go up in flames. The U.S. is now calling on Iran to withdraw from Syria. Okay? Here we have the United States, which has no business being in Syria. There's been no congressional declaration of war against Syria. There's no United Nations Security Council resolution authorizing the United States to be in Syria. Syria doesn't want them there. Iran doesn't want them there. The Kurds don't want them there. The Turks don't want them there. But the U.S. is going to stand there and say that Iran has to withdraw from Syria, or there'll be bad things happening. And apparently, Ali Akbar Velayati, chief advisor to Iran's spiritual leader Ali Khamenei, said Iran's presence in Syria is legitimate, and it is the United States that should leave. And he's absolutely correct. And it isn't just Iran saying that. Russia, Sergei Lavrov, has on more than a few occasions said the U.S. needs to get on out. It needs to leave the area it controls in southern Syria. Now, a lot of people were wondering what was going to be happening with this three-way battle where the Turks were invading Syria ostensibly to fight the Kurds were fighting back, and Syria was not happy about the situation. And surprise, surprise, this is a demonstration of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, because the Kurds and Syria have struck a deal. And now the Syrian government forces are going into Afrin to help fight the Turks. So now we have Syria and Turkey basically kicking up a war. Now the Kurds are suggesting that Syria should close their airspace to Turkish aircraft. Basically say, you can't come in here. If you come in here, you're going to be shot at. So it's not just the United States that can declare a no-fly zone. Syria has every right to say, get your planes out of here. Turkey, as if it doesn't have enough to do, is now threatening to invade Greece. And apparently the tensions between the two countries actually go back to this practice Turkey has of violating Greek airspace. In fact, they did it 138 times in a single day. And on February 13th, a Turkish Coast Guard patrol boat rammed a Greek Coast Guard vessel off the shore of Imia, one of the many Greek islands over which Turkey claims sovereignty. Now, most of the areas within modern Greece's current borders were under the control of the Ottoman Empire from the mid-15th century until the Greek War of Independence in 1821 and the establishment of the modern Greek state in 1832. These islands, however, like the rest of Greece, are legally and historically Greek, as their names indicate. Turkey's position is, no, those islands are actually Turkish territory, and they're threatening to invade to seize control of those. Over in Lebanon, Hezbollah Secretary General Saeed Hassan Nasrallah has once again warned Israel to back off claiming these disputed oil and gas fields off the southern Lebanese coast, threatening that Hezbollah could disable Israel's offshore oil installations within hours. Now, the dispute over the Eastern Mediterranean gas fields goes back to January of 2017, but blew up starting in late January of this year, because Lebanon has started putting up these blocks for tender. Now, Israel has basically come on out and said they own the entire eastern end of the Mediterranean seafloor. Normally, the way it works in the civilized world, when a border reaches the coastline, you just draw a straight line out, and that's your ocean border. But Israel doesn't play that way. They reach the water, they turn north, and they go all the way up and around, and on the other coast they turn south. And they're basically saying that none of these other countries that border the Eastern Mediterranean have any right to the oil and gas. So now that there's actual money on the table, Israel is starting to make some serious noises about going on in and taking over these oil rigs, or putting their own oil rigs on there. And that's going to lead to more fighting. And right now, you have to remember, Netanyahu is desperate for a war. With Syria, with Lebanon, he doesn't care. He's looking at these corruption charges. Apparently they're serious. Some of the other people named in the indictments have already been arrested. And if you saw that video of Netanyahu holding up a piece of what he claims is an Iranian drone, you could see it in his eyes. He's very tired. He's not getting any sleep. The IDF has struck 18 terror targets in Gaza. This is some of the heaviest fighting in years. This time they didn't even bother with a bottle rocket. They just went on in and started bombing the Gaza Strip. Like I said, Netanyahu needs a distraction. So Netanyahu was out there basically talking tough, saying Iran is a threat, Iran is this, Iran is that. And so the Foreign Affairs Minister of Iran, Mohammad Javad Zarif, is warning that Israel's invincibility has crumbled. And of course, he's talking about that Israeli F-16 jet, which was shot down after attacking what was claimed to be an Iranian site in Syria. And Iran is saying, we will not hesitate to respond to any Israeli aggression against us. The whole world is going absolutely crazy. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials, and we will be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customer. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And Aloha America, welcome back to our show here. And if you would like to help keep Republic Broadcasting Network on the air, and I assure you it is really needed right now, the postal address to send a check or money order is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. If you want to phone on in and pledge to become a recurring subscriber, the number is 800-724-2719, extension 03. Now, getting on back to the geopolitical news, a lot of stuff is going on around the world. Apparently, there are massive demonstrations in Kiev calling for Ukraine's president to quit, saying that Poroshenko is a thief. They're talking impeachment, resignation. They do not like him. Meanwhile, we have a Navy admiral. This is the second time a story like this has come on out. Last week, basically saying we're ready for war with China. We hope it won't come. But now we have this admiral who's apparently nominated to be the next U.S. ambassador to Australia, is basically saying that the U.S. must prepare for the possibility of war with China. It's a global war policy. The U.S. is basically waging war on the entire world. They're trying to conquer it all, bring about the New World Order. And I think they're going to stumble and fall very, very badly. Now, probably you remember a couple of weeks ago where there was all this talk in the corporate media about the so-called bloody nose strategy for North Korea. And of course, North Korea has come across really good in the Olympics. It was a very powerful public relations coup. But the U.S. is still out there saying, we want a war, we want a war, we want a war. And apparently, two senators who attended the Munich Security Conference over the weekend have basically said the U.S. does not actually have a bloody nose strategy to take out North Korea's nuclear arsenal, contrary to the reports that we saw in places like the Wall Street Journal. And I understand why that's so. You're not sure you're going to get them all. And if you go in and attack North Korea, whatever nuclear weapons and long-range missiles you don't destroy are definitely going to be flying back. Something else Congress did that I don't agree with, and it's not getting a lot of reportage on the corporate media. Apparently, Congress, over this last year, passed a large number of bills that are deregulating industry, either by removing regulations entirely or basically hamstringing them. And basically all of these bills limit the right of consumers to seek any kind of justice against major corporations. They already did this with computers and software. They're doing it with vaccine makers. Now they're saying this is a good thing, so we're going to make everything. Talk about fascism here. Bitcoin was apparently back above $10,000, at least briefly over the weekend here. Barnes & Noble has decided to solve their financial distress. Apparently the tax breaks from Trump were not enough. They have just fired all of their full-time employees at 781 stores. Everybody's going to be a temp worker from now on. It's bad out there. Okay, now let's see. Over at Investment Watch blog, retail sales tank. Is the house of credit cards about to collapse? And basically, as I mentioned earlier in the show, they've now revised the holiday shopping numbers downward. It wasn't a good shopping season. It was as bad as the previous year. But this article is dealing mostly with the fact of Americans sinking rapidly into debt, and a big part of it are credit cards. Now, some years ago, Claire and I made the conscious decision not to use the credit cards, just to pay them all down, and we've almost paid them off. And everybody should be doing that. You can't run an economy on on debt. And because everybody is struggling with debt, they're not going to the retailers. They don't have any money to spend. They're not spending because they have no money to spend. And consumer activity accounts for more than 2/3 of U.S. economic activity. Not anymore, obviously. There's an issue there. Getting on over into Europe and immigration. Apparently, George Soros is now openly supporting plans to destroy all nation states and the West to bring about his new world order. I think Soros is using the U.S. military to conquer all the recalcitrant nations who don't want to be part of this. And then following that, the U.S. will be destroyed, maybe by losing in the war. Anyway, we're going to take another break here for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination of garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite is designed to strengthen the heart and arteries and help the body heal itself. Doctors are not able to explain the improvements they are seeing in their patients' health who are taking Extendivite. People who once needed more pills are now taking less and getting better. Due to the unexplainable improvements in their patients' health, more doctors are calling to order Extendivite for themselves. Help Extendivite make your doctor a believer. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And I'm looking at the corporate media, and they're spending a lot of time about how the singer Fergie did a really bad performance of the national anthem at the NBA All-Star game. And they're just going on and on about it. And I know she's a professional singer. This strikes me as a PR stunt on her part. Everybody's talking about the singer Fergie. Name value, name recognition out there. Okay, let's see. We have that going. Getting on back to immigration and culture shock. Apparently over in Italy, there was a little bit of an upset because some of the refugees at the Welcome Center apparently found a stray dog and barbecued it. And of course, the Italians are like totally freaked out about this. And I presume that Italy probably has laws against cruel, unusual treatment of animals. Plus, you've got global wildlife organizations. But apparently, animal rights activists are really up in arms. Now, the migrants are saying, this is a normal practice where we come from. Okay, well, if you want to do that, go back where you came from. Because you're now in Italy and there are different set of rules. So that's another reason why this whole globalization isn't going to work. Culture shock. People, they've lived all their lives under a certain set of laws, certain set of social expectations and rules. Especially the older people, they're not going to change overnight. Now, up in Canada at Dalhousie University, this is in Halifax, has a job opening for the Vice Provost of Student Affairs. But in order to have diversity on campus, the job ad basically said, the search for a new Vice Provost Student Affairs will be restricted to racially visible persons and Aboriginal people at this time. In other words, it's now okay, apparently in Canada, to discriminate against white people. Because that's what this is. It's still discrimination. People are being discriminated against on the basis of their skin color. I thought Canada was above this sort of nonsense, but I guess under Justin Trudeau, no. The Austrian Foreign Minister Karin Kneißl has slammed German Chancellor Angela Merkel for her decision in 2015 to welcome immigrants, saying it was a pull factor, and went on to praise Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban for working to secure the European border. And apparently this foreign minister just got the job. She was nominated by the Anti-Mass Migration Freedom Party. The European people are pushing back. It may be too late, as that caller said. From a cultural point of view, France is already gone. It's something else now. It's Franz Syria or Franz Niger. Same thing with Germany. It just isn't what it was. The cultural identity is being destroyed by George Soros, who's got a huge amount of money and no legitimate authority to muck about with the planet, but he's going to do it. Getting on back to Merkel and Germany, it's looking like her coalition government may not happen after all, because there's going to be a party referendum in the Social Democrats as to whether they want to go along with the coalition deal. And the polls are starting to show that a lot of people are not happy with it. And if, in fact, they vote this deal down, then Merkel will have to call new elections. And in all probability, she is not going to, she's going to lose. She took a major clubbing in the last election. It's probably going to be worse this time. Now, down in Israel, and as I said, this is probably one of the reasons why Netanyahu is making stink face at Syria and Lebanon and Gaza and all the rest of it. Apparently, the Israel securities authorities have opened an investigation into allegations that the country's largest telecom company, Bezeq, received benefits in order to give positive media coverage to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And apparently, several senior executives from Bezeq, including 2 close associates of Netanyahu, have been arrested as part of the corruption probe. Like I said, when Netanyahu was on that TV holding up that piece of debris, you could see his eyes. He was very tired. Here's more political correctness. Over at Yale University, which I used to have a lot of respect for. Yale was one of the top schools. You know, if you had a degree from Yale, your career was made. Boy, have they declined. Apparently, Yale University is offering a course that aims to help students understand and counteract whiteness, and includes topics such as white imagination, white property, and white speech. And according to the syllabus for the class, which is called Construction of Whiteness, the English course is an interdisciplinary approach to examining our understanding of whiteness. Now, I have a question for the people at Yale University. What kind of jobs will this course qualify students for after they graduate and need to start making payments on their student debt? I think that's a legitimate question to ask right now. But this is a joke. I mean, it's still discrimination. It's not justice, it's not balance, it's not compensation, it's just discrimination. And it doesn't matter which direction it's going in, discrimination is wrong. Apparently over in Russia, Instagram and YouTube may be looking at a full block. Apparently a billionaire won a privacy lawsuit because apparently somebody got videos and photographs that showed this Russian billionaire, Oleg Deripaska, and Deputy Prime Minister Sergei Prichodko relaxing on a yacht with a woman described politely as an escort. And so this billionaire got very angry and he went to court and said, "You've got to respect my privacy. So we'll just take away YouTube and Instagram from everybody." It's becoming very obvious right now how many people around the world, how many governments around the world, how many corporations are trying to find a way to shut down the internet, to turn it into just another corporate media content delivery platform. Soros is out there criticizing social media because people don't like his plans for the New World Order and the one world government. Story out of C News Now in Great Britain. The White House is threatening consequences for the supposed 2017 Russian cyber attack. And don't forget, not too long ago, the U.S. government came on out and said that a cyber attack would be treated as an act of war, and that the U.S. could respond with real military. And what they're doing is they're blaming Russia for the Petya and not Petya malwares. And it caused billions of dollars in damage across Europe, Asia, and Americans. And they're out here saying it obviously came from the Kremlin. No, you have no way of knowing that. Anybody who is a cybersecurity professional will tell you that's one of the big problems with the internet as it is today. You cannot trace malware back to its source. There's no way to do it. All you can do is you can find the last IP in a very long chain of cutout machines. And you can arrange for a cutout machine to be in Russia to make it look like it's coming from Russia, but that doesn't prove it's the origin there. This is just more trash talk, bashing Russia and trying to come up with some kind of an excuse for more sanctions or possibly outright war. Apparently, Kim.com has come on out reminding everybody again that the data stolen from the DNC email servers was not hacked. That somebody, meaning Seth Rich, walked out the door with all of that information on a memory stick. Now, here's a bizarre story. This is kind of weird, and I don't know why Amazon is not able to track it down. But apparently somebody is sending Amazon sex toys to total strangers. Now, for those of you who are unaware of it, along with everything else that Amazon carries, they have sex stuff. Vibrators, bondage stuff, costumes. And apparently somebody just thinks it's really funny to buy the stuff and have it delivered to other people. It's kind of weird. All right. Now, this is kind of interesting. Down in Rio de Janeiro, there is this drug lord. And he's considered one of the most dangerous criminals in Rio. But apparently, this drug lord kidnapped a medical staff and made them vaccinate a community against yellow fever. I'm sure he meant well. We don't know what's in the vaccine here. And this is not as shocking or surprising as you might think, because many years ago, I had sort of a tangential exposure to the world of South American drug lords. And they're very often seen as community organizers in places where they don't really have a functioning government. And so the drug lords will pay for the roads, they'll pay for the schools, and they're looked up to by the local population. So it's not that odd here. Story coming out of Natural News here. 16-year-old boy from Franklin Township, Indiana, committed suicide after taking Tamiflu for his flu. The teen was found by his aunt and uncle, who were also his guardians, in the garage. Now, he had no prior history of any kind of mental issues or depression or suicidal thoughts. So, again, these medications go on out there. They're very dangerous, and nobody cares. It's just about making the money. Up in Toronto, Canada, again, becoming the nanny state, over 5,000 elementary school kids have been suspended for out-of-date immunization records. If you want to go to public school, you make sure that the doctors and hospitals and pharmacies have gotten their payoffs. And again, I think it's a fundamental right for people to decide what goes in their body, especially with all of these horror stories about dangerous medications. And it's all about the marketing. It's all about the money here. Another article coming out of Russia Today. Big Pharma spent $10 million promoting opioid drug use to patients. And we know that opiate abuse is rampant in this country. People are getting addicted. They're getting hooked. They're dying of overdoses. And apparently the drug companies spent $10 million promoting opioid drug use to patient advocacy groups and other nonprofit organizations between 2012 and 2017. More than 42,000 Americans died from opioid overdoses in 2016. The doctors are killing more people than the mass shooters. Physicians affiliated with patient advocacy groups accepted more than $1.6 million in payments from 5 manufacturers between 2013 and 2018. This is a new report released by Senator Claire McCaskill, top Democrat on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee. And basically saying that there's a financial incentive. The financial links between doctors and patient organizations are definitely there. Doctors are incentivized to prescribe certain medications. In this case, it was the opioids. Now, some months back, there was a big stink where one of the companies that makes these opiates was literally caught financially incentivizing doctors to push these pills. And evidence surfaced it was an intentional plan to build a permanent consumer class of people addicted to these medications. That's why more and more people are turning to natural medicines, things you can grow or make in your own home, because you can't trust the medical system any longer. You really, really cannot. And of course, the medical industrial complex is on the warpath against people being able to treat themselves. They're on the warpath against natural cures, even supplements, saying that they're dangerous. Supplements are dangerous. No, they're not. Prescription drugs are 62,000 times more likely to kill you than supplements. But supplements keep you healthy. And if you're healthy, you're cutting into the profits of the medical industrial complex. They're out there in their boardroom saying, we need more people to be sick. Somebody go down to the virus lab and throw a beaker out the window. There's been another very strange and suspicious death of a holistic doctor. Former Miss Universe contestant Sonia K. Forbes was found dead at her St. Andrew home. She was stabbed in the abdomen, and Dr. Forbes was known for being in favor of using cannabis to treat and cure medical conditions. And she was working on a study that was using cannabis to help people suffering from long-term eye problems. And this lady was against Big Pharma, pro-holistic, and there have been a lot of these doctors who've died under very suspicious circumstances because it's cutting into the profits. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigRelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigRelief migraine formula. MigRelief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigRelief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And again, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And let's talk about human-caused global warming. Insert ominous music here. And the problem for the warmistas is that it isn't warm. They just had a major winter storm on the East Coast. It's moving out to sea now. Heavy, heavy snow. Record-setting snow again in the Pacific Northwest. There are places in the Northern Hemisphere that are getting snow that don't normally get snow. But the global warming people are not ready to give up on this. Every time somebody points out the world really is not getting warmer, we're getting into a Maunder minimum, they come up with some bizarre excuse. Oh, the heat is hiding in the bottom of the ocean. Really? Have you ever heard of convection? Then they had the polar vortex, like that was something unexpected, and it was just messing things up. And I'm sure probably that Al Gore is going to get around to saying that the Russians are messing with our environment. The Russians have a secret freezing gun they're directing at us. And the latest bizarre excuse is they're now saying there's a warming hole. And that it's causing some areas to get colder instead of hotter. Now that makes absolutely no sense at all. If you have a warming hole, you have a cool zone. So they're still out there trying to sell this idea that humans are warming the planet and we have to allow some global authority to tell us how to live our lives, and we have to pay carbon taxes. And I think the reason they keep coming up with these bizarre things is they're trying to save face. They don't want to admit they've been caught in a huge scam against the American people, against the people of the world. And, I mean, climate does change. But the indications are right now that we're heading into a mini ice age. Of course, they were saying that back in the 1970s as well, and it didn't happen. It's the way scientists operate. If they discover something and they say, I've discovered this and it's probably no big deal, they don't get media attention, they don't get funding. But if they come back and say, I've discovered this little phenomenon and it's potentially the end of the world, then the media pays attention. They need a sensational story. The media exposure results in more funding. Science gets sensationalized. Science gets politicized. And that's what happened here. I mean, all along, from Hadley Climate Research Unit all the way up to this latest nonsense, it hasn't been scientific. All right, we're going to take a break for station identification. Phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network. Because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero? Because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And again, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Getting on back to human-caused global warming. Article in the Daily Mail over in Great Britain. Again, sensationalistic, bombastic indeed. Headline: prepare for more extreme weather. There will be significantly more droughts, floods, and storms if countries fail to meet the targets set by the Paris Agreement by just 1 degree centigrade. Now, I'd like to point something out here. The official weather forecast for today was for thunderstorms. There's a couple of clouds in the sky. Other than that, it's totally clear. And these are the same people who can't accurately predict what the weather's going to be 24 hours in advance, absolutely insisting that they have got 100% confidence in their calculations about the warming environment. And very clearly, all of these made-up calculations and rigged computer code fail to take into account the fact that the sun's output is varying and is cooling. One of the problems I've had with those computer models for the climate that I've seen is they're all limited context. They're all starting with a select piece of data and looking for a specific effect. Well, that's no way to be trying to predict what's going on with the climate. You have to deal with it as a whole, as an entire global system, and you have to factor everything in. Carbon dioxide? Yes. Animal flatulence? Yes. The amount of green cover on the ground has to be factored in. The amount of clouds in the sky have to be factored on in. And that changes over time. Again, linked to solar activity. But these people were not being paid to actually come up with any real science. They were being paid to act as modern-day priests, to convince you, just believe as you're being told because it's a scientist. In the old days, it was the church. You know, believe what we tell you because there's the priest. He wouldn't lie to you. He's a priest. So they're still out there doing what they do. And it is... Anybody who says there's no such things as wide-ranging conspiracies against the public, we've got one right here. You should study it. You should learn from it. Apparently, Michael Mann of Penn State, who was actually at one point under investigation for misappropriation of research funds, was given this really prestigious award over the weekend for his work on global warming. Let's get some late-breaking news on, well, this is economic here. Apparently, the Bay Area is starting to see a population exodus. In fact, so many people are leaving the Bay Area. U-Haul has started running out of their one-way rental trucks, and they're having to jack up the prices. That's a bad sign there. Bay Area is very lovely, or at least it was there when Claire and I were there for Day After Tomorrow here. Apparently, and this is a cautionary tale here, Kentucky Fried Chicken had to temporarily close 2/3 of their restaurants. They ran out of chicken. Now, for a large corporation like that, I'm sure they've got a supply chain, and I'm sure they keep an eye on the availability of the raw product, the raw material. Something obviously happened. And they literally ran out of chicken, and they had to close 2/3 of their stores. It's another iconic store that's in trouble. There is some research out from a team of Danish and French researchers, and they have now pointed the finger of blame at ibuprofen as one of the culprits responsible for what appears to be increasing male infertility across the globe. And the study showed that daily intake of the drug creates a hormonal condition associated with impaired fertility, depression, and increased risk of cardiovascular events. Ooh, what a wonderful product. I have a friend who was on ibuprofen and almost lost her liver. But it makes money, and if it makes money, it's good. Seems to be the attitude here. Yeah, we're going to go poison you people off. There's way too much humans around here anyway. You've probably seen this on the corporate media. It is spectacular. Sinabung volcano has had a massive eruption. The cloud of ash has gone 2 miles up into the sky. Apparently there's no wind, so it's just steaming up right above the volcano. So it is a huge eruption. All right, let's see. Now, let's get back over here. Back to the war news. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has strongly urged the U.S. to immediately shut down its operation, the so-called zone of control in southern Syria. And, of course, we were talking about it before. Lavrov says you should be getting out. Now there's more details. Apparently, al-Nusra terrorists are basically making a safe haven for themselves. The U.S.-controlled zone in southern Syria is a safe haven for terrorists of the Jabhat Fatah al-Sham Takfiri group, formerly known as al-Nusra Front. Of course, we've been hearing about U.S. covert support for all these terrorists to use as proxies against Assad. Over the weekend, there was a video that came out showing a U.S. military helicopter dropping supplies to some of these terrorists. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. So let's get a few more of these stories here. Apparently, CNN is going to have a gun control town hall in Broward County, Florida. It's already leaked out they're having a rehearsal for it, meaning it's not really a town hall. It's not really a spontaneous display of the sentiment of the people. It's a theater piece. It's a theater piece to push that gun control agenda all over again. That's corporate media for you. That's what they do here. Now, Trey Gowdy has come out responding to all of this nonsense, saying, show me a law that will prevent the next mass killing. And there isn't one. There really isn't one. And again, all of these laws are not aimed at the mass killers or the criminals. They're aimed at you and I. And banning all guns because of a few drugged up, pharmaceutically impaired crazies have committed crimes with them is like saying we're going to ban all cars because this drunk driver ran over some people on the crosswalk. You're punishing the wrong people. And they definitely, they're definitely pushing it as hard as they can. Apparently, Maria Bartiromo was interviewing Jeff Sessions, and she came on out and said, are you going to appoint a second special counsel? We need a dozen right now. We need one for Uranium Gate. We need one for the Clinton Foundation and whether it was really qualified as a 501c3. We need a special counsel looking into the email server scandal and possible espionage. We need a special counsel looking into just why the DNC tried to frame Russia for the loss of their emails, when all these technical experts have said this was walked out of the door on a memory stick. We need lots of special counsels. We need lots of tar, lots of feathers. So, we already talked about Soros wants full censorship of the internet here. And we already talked about the new subpoenas being issued for the Department of Justice and the FBI here. More about the Florida school shooter. And, oh, this is a good one here. Apparently, the Democrat-controlled Pennsylvania Supreme Court has redrawn the district maps for 2018. And the gerrymandering was just in plain sight for everybody, and the Republicans got cheated. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has redrawn the districts to favor the Democrats. High interest rates will ultimately trigger the next recession, as the entire debt construct will be weighted down by the burdens of cost of carry. And again, this gets back to the decline in the West, the decline in our country, all gets back to those private central banks. It's just not going to work. It's not working. I mean, it's great for the bankers and terrible for people. Yet another student has come on out, the Parkland shooting, saying, I thought it was a joke because they told us we were going to have a fake drill, you know, have people being taken away and have them scream and whatever like a drill. Now, I've taken part in a disaster drill, and yeah, they need people to play the victims. But this idea that there actually was a shooting drill at that school scheduled for the exact same time as the real shooting, that too is a recurring pattern that we have seen. That indicates that this is another one of these government-sponsored false flag attacks. Okay. I'm going through recently posted stuff here. Another one on global warming. Melting ice doesn't even make sense. Violates thermodynamics. Well, it's not like these guys are real scientists or anything here. Adam Schiff is caught up in yet another massive lie. But again, as that caller said, the frustrating thing about all this, we know this stuff happened. We know Hillary violated Title 18. We know that Brennan lied under oath. We know that Schiff has lied under oath. Nothing ever seems to happen to them. And it's almost like we've returned to the age of the nobility, where once you were ennobled, you were above the law. You could still be punished by direct order of the king. We don't have one of those, at least not yet. But that's not what the Founding Fathers intended. And it's certainly not healthy for our country to have people who are above the law, who can just do whatever they want. And let's see, there was another story here that I wanted to get back to. Apparently somebody has already discredited the story that was put out by the New York Daily News, claiming that the Florida shooter was trained by the NRA. That one has now been completely discredited. Okay, we have a caller on the line. So, Tom in Iowa, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Say, Mike, real quick aside from my call about, you know, the Electoral College, I see that as being inherently bad. I don't know why our Founding Fathers ever did it, although I'm glad it was took out Hillary Clinton, but I have to bite my tongue for it. But it seems like to me they've thrown it back behind the scene and let a few govern the many. And when you have power that's given away to people like that, I mean, what's the sense of voting? I know it's supposed to be for areas that was unrepresented and all that, try and even it out, but I don't think it does that. You give it to these delegates, and they go to super delegates, which makes even fewer people governing our country, and I just think it's a bad thing. And, gerrymandering, it cancels out the Electoral College anyway. They end up doing what they want to do anyhow. But anyway, the real reason I call is on the FBI. How many times do we have to put up with this organization, organized criminals, the way I see they are, missing drop the ball on investigations, and that they even admit it. This is about the 10th time in the last couple of years that they've really fell off the wagon and not investigate, on your Olympian girls and stuff. I just don't understand how they get by with this. And if they're going to not investigate the Carollis, the ones where all this took place, and that Bella Caroli, then they're missing the point again. They're just letting it go by. But they've done this so many things on big things they should be investigated, and I think it should be disbanded.
Well, a lot of people would agree with you about that, but I think the reason that we have all of these repeating incidents of there's a terrible event, a bombing, a shooting, and it comes on out that the FBI had known about these people. I think the FBI is finding and recruiting people that they think they can manipulate into doing this kind of stuff. And I remember there was a story about the World Trade Center bombing, not 9/11, but before that, the Trade Center bombing, where the FBI had an informant inside the people who were going to do the bombing, and the informant asked the FBI for permission to sabotage the bomb so it could not go off, and he was ordered by the FBI to leave it alone. So what we have here is... Go ahead.
How about Timothy McVeigh?
Yes.
He had to ask for instructions how to get to where he's going to bomb it. And, I'll tell you what, that guy got tried, I guess he got tried, and executed all within a year. I mean, that was really fast getting him executed. They wanted his mouth shut up. This FBI, of course the CIA, we know, pick and choose their wars or whatever, and they're Israel run. But this FBI is dangerous. I just have no use for them anymore, and it's scary, actually, to have this much power,
Well, what's scary is they've gone rogue. They're out of control. They're basically not on the side of the people. They're on the side of the narcocracy. And you're right. The American people need to understand just how disenfranchised we become, and that, of course, is the inevitable result of our election system being hopelessly compromised. And I have all these people calling into the show saying we should organize at the community level, we should vote these people out. All of these are good ideas, but they're based on the assumption that we have an honest election system, and we don't. That was made manifest in 2016, just how terrible our election system is, how dishonest it is. And if you have not seen it, there's a documentary out on HBO, Hacking Democracy. You got to watch that. And I'm very, very disappointed that Donald Trump has shut down his Election Integrity Commission. Now, he was saying basically all of the state election officials were simply stonewalling, which tells us all they got something to hide. They're all part of this machine that makes it look like we actually have fair and honest elections, but we don't. We don't.
And your electronic voting is another little way they take the vote away from the people too. Who knows who's voting for who or what? We really got a corrupt system, and this corrupt system has got us to being $23 trillion in debt, and for us to keep governing like that, to go on. Would you think another country could go like that? Puerto Rico, they can't do anything down there because, Puerto Rico doesn't have any money, and we can't let them go in debt any further, but we could just spend. And I hope they investigate the Carollis, because, boy, that's where a lot of this took place, those pigs, I guess I leave it with. And I want to thank you for the time there, Mike. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for the phone call, and we're going to let you go. And yeah, it's the extreme irresponsibility of the federal government in the handling of our economy, in our foreign policy. It's a big party to them, and they're making some very bad decisions. It almost makes me wonder if they're all on antidepressants, and I imagine probably most of them are, or if there's something in the water. But I think the antidepressants are a real question. How many people in the federal government are taking SSRIs? Because they're not thinking very well. Some of the decisions that have come out of Washington, D.C., just, it's crazy stuff. We'll be right back.
For the past 14 years, it's been my privilege to host the National Intel Report on RBN, to offer a platform to interview exceptional guests, to provoke critical thought, and examine evidence, whether real, fake, or somewhere in between, and allow our audience to call in and participate with your input and questions in order to help us all reach an educated decision and arrive at our own truth. Our world has changed. It's now been turned on its head. Real is now considered fake, and mainstream fake is now pushed as real, rather than any clear thinking, consensus, or rationale.
Those few remaining beacons of light, the ones still shining through the mainstream media lies, propaganda, and deception, are being viciously attacked at every level through attempts at censorship, threatening advertisers, jailing hosts, and even killing journalists brave enough to speak the truth to you. We are in a war for our very freedom and existence, and through these despicable acts, freedom haters, collectivists, and communitarians have shown that they will stop at nothing to blot out these last few beacons of light. Truth is becoming increasingly more difficult to unmask, just as the term unmasking itself is spoken by those usually anonymous sources. They promote their lies, wishing to mask the truths by ignoring it, vilifying it, or conspiratorializing it into a black hole abyss.
Regrettably, RBN has reached the tipping point, and through internal audit and actuarial review, it has now been determined that the only life raft of survival to this network is to go the way of PBS, that being audience-supported. Like a cornered animal, the left with veracity is pulling out all the stops with every effort to effectively blacken our beacon forever. Help us, folks. Help yourselves. Don't let our light stop shining. Our motto has always been, because you can handle the truth. It's time to review your budget, folks. If you want the truth to keep flowing through RBN, go to republicbroadcasting.org and become a regular monthly donor of $30, $40, $50, or $100 or more a month, and ensure you keep the truth flowing.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And as the announcer person said, join me on the air. We need some phone calls. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the corporate media, and they're back to bashing North Korea. Virtually no coverage of North Korea at the Olympics. It's back to rogue nation, rogue leader. He's evil, he's bad, he's planning something. He's planning to evade the sanctions. And something I noticed in the corporate media, and I found this very angering. Anytime there was an article about the North Korean athletes or the North Korean cheerleaders or the orchestra that all came on down to South Korea, and South Korea picked up the bill, ignoring the U.S. sanctions here. There's always that qualifier at the end, but they're suffering at home. Because these people look happy and healthy. They don't look like third world wrecks. They're presenting a very positive face to the world. And yes, these are obviously elite individuals, the cheerleaders, the athletes, and so forth. But they're not looking like they're under the kind of stress that you would associate from living in a real dictatorship. So the media is still out there. So the cheerleaders were wonderful, but boy, if they make a mistake, they're going to go to prison. Bad things will happen to them. They can't let it alone and just report on the news. They just have to keep that constant attack on North Korea. And it worries me that they're back to doing that propaganda, especially in light of the story we ran earlier today about how the U.S. does not actually have a bloody nose strategy. It was bluff and bluster and threatening. And I'm sure that North Korea understands that fully, because there's that unpleasant reality. The U.S. doesn't know where all the bombs are or all the long-range missiles are. I'm sure by now North Korea has dispersed them all over the country. They have these tunnels drilled into the mountains. Normally they store artillery there. But you could move the artillery off to one side and put in a missile launcher or a nuclear weapon. So they just can't. It would be idiotic to take that risk. But apparently that's what people in Washington, D.C. are thinking. Let's be idiotic. We're going to have fun. Somebody just posted an article on the members page here. I think this put things in perspective. On the same day that 17 children were murdered in the Florida school, almost 300 Americans were killed by FDA-approved prescription medications. If you actually look at the numbers, you will realize that you are far more likely to die from medical mistake than get caught in a mass shooting incident. All right, we're going to take a phone call here. We've got Jeff in Georgia. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, good to talk to you. I was listening in today. Just had a question for you. Is there any way that a person like you, I think you and I are in this for the same objective. And I've called in before, and you probably recognize my voice.
Yes.
But somebody needs to put together a think tank, okay, because there has to be political action. If you recall years ago, there used to be a guy in Congress named Traficant.
Yes.
And I don't know if he was guilty from kickbacks or not, but I used to love to hear him because he was a lot like me. He was actually from, same stomping grounds I was. But we don't have that no more because the money has corrupted the political system. But we need a think tank. We need somebody who can get out in the public eye. We need a third party. Neither party is going to solve our problem. We need massive reform. But we need a think tank. I mean, even RBN, and God bless RBN, and I want you to be successful. Sometimes I wonder if they're not possibly co-opted at times. Last night you had a guy on there, and I mean, it wasn't on your station, but he brought a guy on that had written a book on Kennedy, but the guy claimed that Las Vegas shooting never happened. I mean, this is nuts. The Las Vegas shooting did happen. Whether there's one guy or two guys, I don't know, but it happened. And sometimes I wonder, a person that can get involved in your station like that, if he's not part of the deep state, if he's not trying to co-opt your station, but you need a think tank, and people need to develop ideas because it's not just overthrowing the banks. It's not just overthrowing the Jewish cartel. I mean, the WASP have to give up some power, and we have to align ourselves with some of the wants of the Farrakhan's. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of Farrakhan says, but Farrakhan has a voice. La Raza has a voice, and I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but they would all agree that the system's corrupt, and this is a start. But we need a think tank. Somebody like you, I think, would be a good spokesman for that think tank. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, Jeff, we're going to do a commercial break. Stay on the line. I'm going to come right back to you, and then I'll give you my feedback on this, okay? So we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy Cleaner is $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the Energy Cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the Energy Cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment gets...
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And before I go back to Jeff here, Fox News is now pushing the Russian hacking story, and when Trump shut down his Election Integrity Commission, which was looking at domestic election fraud, he handed it to the Department of Homeland Security, and apparently the Homeland Security is viewing this issue of election security solely in terms of a foreign power, meaning Russia. They're back to pushing Russia hacking, Russia hacking. No evidence that it actually happened. Now, counting machines, tabulators, all of that stuff are not connected to the internet for the very obvious reason that they would be open to hacking, and not just by Russia, but by anybody. But they're still pushing that narrative, even though Mueller's investigation has found zero evidence on that. All right, getting on back to Jeff in Georgia, what you're describing sounds like a good idea, but there are some realities, and the most important, of course, is the government has disconnected itself from we the people through the fake elections and corporate media and the rest of it, and the system is rigged against a third party. The two traditional parties enjoy special advantages that keep them in power, and third parties, it takes a huge amount of effort and will to push one through. And in one way, I almost wish Trump hadn't won the GOP nomination, because he was going to go third party, and I would have supported him then. And with the Trump support that we saw during the election, we might have been able to push through a third party, but the system is rigged against it. Right now, I think that my best advice remains. We see a system that is in decline, that is heading for collapse, just like the former Soviet Union, and I think the best thing the American people can do is just look for ways to survive the coming crash and be ready to start a whole new government with all new people, and go back to that original Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The amendments up to the 13th, I think, is a good place to stop, and just hit the reset button on this, because the federal government is totally corrupt, and they're all there to protect the government against their most feared enemy, which is not Russia, but the American people. Jeff, are you there?
I believe, we are a republic, and there are grassroots efforts. You have a voice, and I love RBN, that it gives me a voice, and it's got people like you out there. But Trump, he had a meteoric rise, and a third party would have that, because, we're at that state right now that change could happen rapidly. I mean, we could have a nuclear war, and that'd be the end of our civilization rapidly. But we have massive debt, and the country is really primed to just pull different pieces of it together. I mean, Michael, this is largely, correct me if I'm wrong, RBN is largely a white audience. Is that correct?
We actually don't know what our audience is. We've had all kinds of people call into the show that would basically mitigate against that. But because RBN is not on Arbitron, we don't get that kind of information in terms of our audience.
Okay. Well, I hope it is, and I hope it's very diverse, because a lot of people of multi-racial, for example, have the same opinion about the banking system. I think if you offered work instead of welfare, that they would take it. They all want to reduce the trade debt, and they want to end corruption in the government. But so you could really have a coalition of more than just one group, and reform would be possible. Trump's not going to take us to the promised land. I like him, but he's not going to do anything about the Federal Reserve.
No, he isn't, unfortunately.
He's disappointed me greatly with his warmongering. One of the
problems that we have with your idea about trying to form a new party is I think everybody's kind of burned out from 2016, because we all worked really, really hard to put Trump over the top, mostly to keep Hillary out of the Oval Office. And again, Trump has betrayed his voter base, and I think people are just getting too cynical to really get out there with the placards and signs. And that's why we keep finding most of these protests and demonstrations involve paid actors here. Anyway, Jeff, I need to let you go. The phone lines are loading up, and I would like to take some of the phone calls here. So let's switch over to Stephen in Chicago. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Stephen, are you there?
Hello, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yes, I can hear you. All right, excellent, cool. First of all, before I go into my topic, I would like to say I really appreciate the work that you and Claire do for what really happened, and I've been a longtime fan of the website and the radio show for quite a few years now, and just would like to share that with you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, but my topic is, yes, my topic is, this article that I read. I'm not going to give out the URL, but it's called Angry Millennial Engineer. And it's talking about the AR-15, and it's entitled, I Like Guns. Something had been floating around on my feed, and I read it, and, I get the gist of what this guy who wrote this blog article is about. He says that it's time to ban AR-15s, and, that's going to at least reduce this gun violence in the schools. And, of course, with the Florida shooting that just happened, I mean, this is getting outrageous. I mean, these school shootings
it's getting outrageous, but here's the thing. Okay, the government hates the AR-15 in the hands of the American people because it gives us the means to say no to some of what the government is doing. You don't actually see AR-15s in real street crime. Nobody holds up a 7-Eleven with an AR-15. It's always the star of these staged managed presentations because that's the gun they want to take away from the American people. And if the AR-15s were banned tomorrow, then the government would start using shotguns in their staged mass shootings in order to disarm us of shotguns. Then it would be down to smaller and smaller guns until they achieve total disarmament of the American people, which is clearly what they're after.
Right. And with this article, it even goes on to say, like, doing this would, solve the problem. But, I mean, if somebody's going to commit the crime, they're going to do it anyways. This guy was saying, we don't have to have this to defend ourselves from the government because naturally an AR-15 wouldn't do that. But, I mean, what I want to also tie into you, too, is, to this is, it's these psychiatric medications that's really poisoning people, and it seems like the whole pharmaceutical industrial complex, it's like nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to attack the real problem of it all, and I think we better get to it, attacking the problem before this thing goes even worse.
Well, again, I still think that this Florida shooting was a U.S. government stage-managed massacre to push the anti-gun agenda. But as I mentioned earlier in the program, there does seem to be a lot of focus on this issue of psychiatric medication following this most recent shooting. So the word is definitely getting out there. And a lot of people are talking about ssristories.org or .com. I think they changed their domain recently. And so people are aware that there's an issue. And it's not just the mass shooters and the suicides. We did our own little study where we found a direct correlation. As more and more of these medications were being sold, domestic violence went up. And Claire and I were just commenting the other day about all the road rage we see around us and how different it is from when we first moved here to Hawaii, which was about 20 years ago now. And I have to wonder how many of these crazed drivers are on these medications, because it impairs your judgment. It gives you poor impulse control, and people are just saying, I want to go for it, and they hit that accelerator, and they get into an accident. So these are very dangerous drugs. And then when you think about our leaders, our political leaders, are probably most of them, many if not most of them, are on these same medications, accounts for some of the poor quality thinking we're seeing coming out of Washington, D.C.
Absolutely, Michael. I agree with that. Well, that's all I really wanted to talk to you about. Thank you for taking my call, and would like to eventually call you again. But once again, keep up the good work. I appreciate it.
Just as long as we can here, Thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Mateus in Canada. Aloha, aloha, Mateus. Thank you for waiting so patiently. What is on your mind?
Hey, Michael, your second last caller said that Trump's not going to take us to the promised land. Well, ironically, maybe he will, because that's a pretty Jewish-related joke there. Okay. The last caller made me think about how we have a lot of machete attacks in Europe,
yes,
where they've already taken the guns. And I assumed that this was just about the Muslim immigration invasion, that they just are into that. But it might not just be that. It might also be some government false flags trying to justify taking the knives away, which there already is a bit of progress on that. But the reason I called just like a random list, one thing, Sweden, they just made it illegal to boil a lobster alive. And I got to say that I support that, because the reason that humans or animals feel pain is so that you know if you've been injured, and you know that you have to nurture an injured part of your body or to run away from danger. So definitely animals can feel pain. So can dolphins and whales and lobsters. And boiling,
of course they can. Of course they can.
Well, boiling something alive that can feel pain. And also you got to think of the abuses. Like when people buy these lobsters, sometimes they're giving them to their dogs to play with. Sometimes they're in these plastic bags. It's just this horrible torture, and then this boiling alive death. So even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. So the liberal Swedish government, in my opinion, got one thing right. But I'm biased because I'm a vegetarian for compassionate reasons.
Yes.
And I just wanted to make a comment. I was talking about robots last time, and I said it's extinction level event. And I wanted to clarify, I wasn't saying that a bipedal robot is going to murder everybody. I meant that the entire robotics rise. So you got nano swarms, military nano swarms. You've got like nuclear weapons that could go off with robotics gone wrong. You do have hunter-killer robot armies that could cause some trouble. So I meant the entire spectrum of the rise of the robots could one day be something that humanity regrets. And I just have a random list here. You a long time ago, you told me that I've been drying my hair in the microwave for too long and hung up on me. And that was such a funny insult. I never got mad about it. I appreciated that. But, I learned something, because what I was saying was a mistake. I thought it was true. I was saying that the queen has a servant that helps her go to the washroom called the groom of the stool. But that's true a couple hundred years ago. I actually thought it was true today. So it shows that you got to be not listen to everything you hear on the internet, right?
Yes.
But I actually believe that. And regarding what was that guy's name that got killed in the Bundy Ranch? He got shot by the police.
I'm having an old guy moment here.
Like a TR, but that guy.
That guy. Lavoy Finicum.
He jumped out of his vehicle. Yes, you got it. Okay, he jumped out of his vehicle when he hit the snowbank, and they're kind of using this as an excuse to shoot him. And I just wanted to say that I one time hit a bank, and I jumped out of my vehicle, and I wasn't a criminal. It was just the shock of having been in an accident. I had this reflex to jump out of the car like an idiot right away. So that's what I think. That's what he was doing. And then the fact that he was putting his hands down, not in the air, and onto his waist, they're saying, oh, he was going for a gun. But that's because they were shooting him, for F's sakes. They were shooting him multiple times in the abdomen, and his hand was going down. Like, what was that? What was that? So, have you heard any progress on the court case about suing him for his wrongful death?
Yeah, I know it's gone to court, and the family is, asking for reasonable damages. But again, this gets back to that prescription psychiatric medication, SSRIs, antidepressants, because there was a study done down in Florida showing that police have a higher per capita usage of these drugs than the general population. And right now in the general population, it's about 25% of the people, 1 out of every 4, are on these dangerous medications. The cops are taking more of them. And I think this is a contributing factor to situations like we reported on early in the show, where this church security guard stopped a mass murder event only to be shot himself by the police when they showed up.
Yeah, it's almost like a true joke that if you call the police, they just show up and shoot you in the face. Like, so one more comment and then a new joke, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this is actually my first really good question for you. Okay, why do we borrow money from other countries and post collateral by selling off our unborn children, the inheritance of the country, if we have this ability to create this private Federal Reserve funding money being printed up and just a bunch of zeros put in the computer?
That's a very, very good question. And I think what it has to do with, is back when this whole Bretton Woods thing was set up, there was an attempt to manage the economy globally. And part of the issue is that if the Federal Reserve just cranks up a lot of new money, it devalues the money that's already out there and makes other countries not trust the US dollar anymore. So I think borrowing money from other countries and pledging our public lands as collateral, which is what the EPA was created for, is a way of just trying to keep some kind of control or keep them dependent. You know, be nice to us or we won't repay the money that we borrowed from you.
It could be like intentional foreign entanglement for the purpose of just having your nose in everybody's business and having some excuses to be having meetings and keeping records, and I don't know, maybe excuses to be like tapping all the phone calls when you're talking to everybody and planting, I don't know. But one theory I have is that it's just a very cynical one, which, by the way, I love your expression about, I'm using it now, that no matter how cynical I get, I just can't keep up. And that's just so true. It might just be an excuse for Hillary Clinton to line her pockets. Like maybe, or anybody else.
It's an excuse. It's an excuse for the entire banking cartel to line their pockets. That's what the Federal Reserve does. It takes the real wealth of the American people and puts it in the bankers' pockets. That's what it was set up to do. Anyway, listen, Mike, we got to take a break here. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go. And when we come on back, we're going to take one more phone call and wrap up our show for this Monday. We'll be right back.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
So, you love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com.
TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
If you are one of the millions of people who get migraines, you need to know about MigRelief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist who created MigRelief, the patented dietary supplement that addresses nutritional deficiencies in adults and children with migraines. Thousands of physicians and pharmacists recommend MigRelief.
Call 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Some have maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far 5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the last segment of our program today. We have 2 people waiting on the phone, and we're going to start with Mike in Colorado. Aloha, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I think you do a fantastic job of raising awareness, and this is more a comment for your audience as opposed to you. When we think we're a republic, but we haven't been since at least 1946, probably 1873, I think we really need to study the Administrative Procedures Act, because we'll never solve the problem if we don't actually know what it is.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Anything else?
And honestly, that's all I've got. Thanks for the show.
Thank you. We're going to let you go, and we're going to take a call from Rick in Arizona. Aloha, Rick. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind today, Mike, is the reason why there's not 1,000 people outside Broward County Jail trying to hang that kid is because nobody died. You know, what we don't have here is human nature. We have a very wealthy community. And if the government staged these shootings and there are dead people, that's too dangerous for them to take that chance. They don't know who they're killing. I'm telling you, people, these things are fake. And without AR-15s and AK-47s in the hand of the people, your money's not safe in the bank. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, you've got it there. And again, we have seen so many of these now. Sandy Hook, Oklahoma City bombing. It's false flag terror attacks to push us toward an agenda. And right now, it is very obvious that our federal government is just absolutely terrified of an enraged American population, and that's where they're trying to push this gun grabber agenda as hard as they can. And apparently the Democrats have actually got some rhinos, Republicans in name only, to basically jump on board saying there've got to be more gun laws. But gun laws are only going to disarm the law-abiding. Like I said, taking away all of our guns because somebody shot up a movie theater or a school makes about as much sense as taking away all of our cars because some drunk driver ran over some people on the sidewalk. Punish the guilty. Leave the innocent alone. But the government has been pushing this agenda for a very, very long time now, and we need to resist. We need to basically dig our heels in and say, the Second Amendment says that my right to keep and bear arms shall not be abridged. And the government is so desperate on this issue. In the Common Core curriculum, they actually rewrote the Second Amendment to make it look like it was a collective right only, that you had to be in a militia, a state-controlled militia, in order to own a gun. That's how badly scared the government is. They're lying to the kids and trying to raise them up to think the Bill of Rights says something completely different from what it really does. And our schools have been turned away from education and turned into indoctrination. And Americans have become the most lied to people on the face of the earth. Far worse than it ever was under Nazi Germany, far worse than it ever was under Stalin's Russia. And okay, there's the music. It's time for me to basically get out of here, do something useful with the rest of the day. And so please stay tuned for John Stedmiller's program. I'm sure he's got all kinds of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here and share it with everybody that you know, especially the fact that there is no proof of Russia collusion or Russia hacking. It's just more of the same kind of Saddam's nuclear weapons lies leading us to a war. And we have to resist against that too. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.